He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is a franchise that is loved by many, and often misunderstood by many more. Alas, the people making the upcoming movie would appear to belong to the latter category, because they're already making excuses for it and bragging about how different from the cartoon it's going to be.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Let's dive in. After almost 2 decades in development hell, the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe movie appears to have some serious forward momentum, as we have now gotten more casting updates, outside of He-Man himself that is, who is replaced every few years. Case in point, the current He-Man actor, and third to be cast in the last 5 years, is Nicholas Galitzine. But he might actually stick, because cast alongside him is Jared Leto as Skeletor, Camila Mendes as Teela, Alison Brie as Evelyn, Idris Elba as Man-at-Arms, Sam C. Wilson as Trapjaw, and Kojo Atta as Triclops. So hardly a dream cast there. The final name we know at this point in time is Hafthor Julius Björnsson as Goatman, a character I do not know. As for the story, that is still being kept under wraps, according to The Hollywood Reporter via SFF Cassette, where it stated that, while plot details are being kept under wraps, we know that director Knight's collaborator on Wildwood, Chris Butler, penned the latest draft of the screenplay. David Callahan and Aaron and Adam Nee previously took a crack at it. What we don't know though is if Chris Butler did a page 1 rewrite, or if he did a polish on the David Callahan draft, like David Callahan did a polish on the Aaron and Adam Nee draft. If that is the case, we have some idea, because we do know the synopsis for the previous David Callahan draft. Let's revisit our reporting from 3 years ago, from January 29th of 2022, the last time the movie was officially announced when Kyle Allen was playing He-Man. Let's go back to the plot synopsis. In Masters of the Universe, Alan will play an orphan named Adam, who discovers he is a prince destined to be the savior of a faraway land. He must quickly learn of his power and the importance of saving his true home from an evil force. From that, we can extrapolate a couple of things. First and foremost, he's an orphan, so no royal upbringing. He's an orphan who is pushing 30, but never mind that, because he's also a prince, one who is destined to be the savior of a faraway land.
I'm an honest-to-God prince.
Meaning he is not in that faraway land. His true home is implied to be that magical faraway land in which he is not currently present. This we know. That begs the question, where is he as the story begins? Well, most likely he's right here on Earth, looking at the sky, wondering if he wasn't made for something greater. I say most likely he's on Earth, because we can always hope for the absolute best case scenario possible within that description, which would be that they ripped off the secret of the sword and gave this He-Man a variation of the origin story written for She-Ra. You will recall that she was kidnapped by Hordak and taken from Eternia to Etheria, where she, for all intents and purposes, was an orphan from a faraway land. Although her adopted homeworld also was an alien world from the audience's point of view. However, it would make very little sense story-wise to make yet another different world in addition to Eternia, so chances are a big chunk of the story will be set on Earth, thus repeating the one thing which was universally disliked about the 1987 movie, namely it being set on Earth. Eternia is a character in the story. It doesn't matter if He-Man's mother is an astronaut from Earth. No He-Man movie has any business being set on Earth. If you want to kill excitement for a He-Man project right off the bat, then setting it on Earth is one surefire way of achieving just that. Once again, all of that came from the reading of the synopsis of the previous David Callahan draft. Again, we don't know how much of that has changed from the most recent Chris Butler draft. If Butler did a complete page 1 rewrite, it may be a completely different story. But if he built on the previous David Callahan draft, and that is very likely, then at the very least some of that should still be present in the current story. What we do know, though, is that it will be very different from the Filmation series, which sparked life into what otherwise was just a toy line. The new He-Man himself, Nicholas Galitzine, told The Hollywood Reporter, "Look, what I will say is our version is quite different from the original animation, which we all agree was camp within its own right and worked so well for the time," the actor explained. But there's been a couple of iterations, obviously since there was the Revelation version of Masters of the Universe and the comics themselves. Galitzine might not be aware of this, but Revelation was a universally hated woke disaster. In every way, The Last Jedi and The Acolyte of Masters of the Universe rolled into one. That he would name-drop it though, and in conjunction with the comics, I do find interesting. There have been many different iterations of the He-Man comics over the years, and for the most part they've been spin-offs of the various animated series. In recent years, nearly all He-Man comics have been in the Revelation continuity, and that's also where these goat creatures appeared. Since there is a goat man in the cast, that makes me think there might be some Revelation influence on this movie. I'll leave it to you to decide if that's a good or a bad thing. Galitzine went on though, and we're very much treating our script as Bible, you know. That's code for that they're ultimately doing their own thing, unbound by anything that came before. But it's kind of amazing to hear what this show meant to a lot of people, Galitzine continued. It was really formative for a lot of people, so it's exciting to do something that will have a nostalgia element, as well as hopefully attract a bunch of new fans. Here's the thing though, since the TV show meant a lot to a lot of people for whom it indeed was formative, then dismissing that TV show as camp and assuring that your movie is quite different from that is hardly a winning sales pitch. On the contrary, that's practically being ashamed of the property you're adapting and promising that your version will be so much better. Something which is often done with reboots like these, yet it seldom works out well in the end. Now, I'm not accusing Galitzine himself of anything here, mind you. He is, after all, a recent addition to the production, who wasn't even a gleam in his father's eye when He-Man ruled the world. What he is doing here is parroting studio talking points. And it is those talking points which suggests to me that the creatives aren't embracing and expanding on the original Filmation cartoon, which is what they should be doing. But instead, they may take cues from Revelation, which is not necessarily a great idea. I can certainly curb my enthusiasm for this. What about you? Is He-Man, but different from that campy cartoon, a sales pitch that will win you over, whether you're a long-term fan or just a random moviegoer with no real affection for the brand in the first place? Let me know in the comments.